challenges. So anyway, for this first session of the afternoon, I'll pass it over to Jason and Ken, if you guys can introduce yourselves.
Thanks, Bruno. This is Jason Hurd. I run our platform and technologies group for SAP. Ken, would you like to introduce yourself?
So my name is Ken Coleman. I've been a business objects manager at the American Red Cross in the DC area for 16 years and a business objects developer for almost 20. And since I'm a developer, like most of the people on the call, I'm going to talk about things a little bit different than the product people usually do, I think.
Yeah, I like to say, Ken, is you're going to get the corporate tagline from me. But the great thing here with Ken, for the folks on the phone, you're going to have someone talk to you about who actually is doing it. Who's used Analytics Cloud, connecting universes. So I'm really excited for this session and really want to thank Ken for participating in this to give his practical experience in a hybrid
Jason,
scenario.
Can you go to full screen mode, please? We're still in presenter mode.
Can you see my screen?
Still in presenter mode. It's not in full screen yet.
Click on reading view, I think.
That's it.
Is there still a problem, or is it?
Maybe display settings. If not, I can show my screen if it's an issue.
There we go.
Okay, very good. Yep, perfect.
That looks fine.
All right, let's get going here. You know, SAP Business Objects BI. So look, you know, everyone here is a current customer. You know, everyone has a large investment into your business objects enterprise deployment. You know, we at SAP are going to continue to invest in the future of this product. So don't let the blogs, the chat bots, or whatever tell you that business objects is dead. It's farthest from the truth. In fact, we've now extended our enterprise maintenance to 2027, providing a maintenance timeline probably amongst the longest in the industry. You know, our intention is to protect your on-premise investments while we plan transition scenarios for moving on-premise workloads to the cloud. You know, highlight a few key areas here. You know, as more and more customers are running both business objects and SAC simultaneously, we are significantly increasing interoperability and working on tools, guidance, and capabilities to help customers transition these workloads to the cloud if you desire. We expect this hybrid approach to be key for our customers, and you'll be able to leverage existing on-premise assets such as universes, Webi documents, as well as simplifying SSO configuration and providing user management across cloud and on-premise platforms. You'll also see improved integration with Analytics Hub. So our strategy is a hybrid strategy for the foreseeable future to protect your on-premise investment, but give you the capabilities of the cloud. Now, if you look at our Analytics Cloud vision, our Analytics Cloud vision centers around SAC. And I think one thing to note for our customers today is SAC has achieved FedRAMP moderate classification from the government. So if you're a Fed moderate or IL2 requirement, you now can get access to SAC. So that's been a 2-year process in the works. So that's really exciting, and you'll start seeing some press on that as well. So what we're doing here is we're providing a journey for SAP Business Objects customers to embrace SAC. So, you know, SAC is our strategic direction going forward as a company. And it's changing the way our customers run their business and helping them understand their data in context and make fast and confident decisions. The integration of business intelligence, enterprise planning, predictive, and augmented analytics in a single engine allows for a smooth experience from reporting to simulation to enterprise planning and back again. all augmented by machine learning. Additionally, we believe that analytics without context has less value. And for that reason, SAP Analytics Cloud is embedded in every one of SAP's cloud suite. So for those who are using SuccessFactors, Concur, or Ariba within the federal landscape, SAC will be embedded in all SAP cloud applications moving forward across our domain for you have a single unified experience across your agency. We went over this slide this morning, so it might be redundant if you've been in all the sessions, but you're looking back, it's going to help us look forward. So when you look at enterprise reporting is where we started. IT created reports, they were expensive, there was a lot of back and forth with IT and business, and that was kind of the web intelligence and crystal reports world. Somewhere along the line of 2010, self-service became in the fashion with tools like Tableau and Qlik, and then that's when SAP launched Numeric first. But now, 9 years later, things are changing once again. So now we're moving to what they call augmented analytics. So what is augmented analytics? So basically, it's around embedding artificial intelligence, machine learning, and analytic workflows all into one engine, into one platform. And I'll talk about this later. The simplicity of being able to type a question within the platform and get it answered back, as opposed to running a report, is a sample of those insights in augmented analytics, and even to a point where you can just point SAC at a data source and automatically create a story. This creates a new way of thinking. All of these technology and market conditions converge, a new way of thinking is necessary. And a new set of tools is required that only can be achieved in the cloud. SAP is addressing all of these changes with their hybrid strategy to deliver the insight that matters in this changing world. Now let's talk about the potential of what modern augmented analytics can deliver in the cloud. Today's users don't want to spend time poring over complex reports that may be hard to interpret. They simply want to ask a question like, what was the profitability last quarter? With augmented analytics, we can answer these questions using natural language processing and machine learning. The ability to predict the future isn't an impossible task anymore. You can predict what would happen to your supply chain if you can't source a particular part. The potential to gain stronger insights grows with augmented capabilities like AI and machine learning. For example, you can understand top contributors and key influencers to your data by connecting to live data within SAC. Machine learning technology saves you time so you can focus on more high-value activities. With these ideas for inspiration, let's now take a look at what's provided in SAP Analytics Cloud. So now that we've set the stage for kind of what's changing in the world of analytics within the marketplace, let's talk about the following thing. SAC isn't just a BI tool. It brings together business intelligence, planning, predictive, analytic applications, and augmented analytics together so you can see your actuals, predict the future, and manage your resulting plans all in one place. So business intelligence enables self-service data exploration within SAP Analytics Cloud. So really bringing these augmented capabilities and machine learning insights. Second, if you want to now start looking at extending into full enterprise planning capabilities with processes and workflows, that is also available in SAP Analytics Cloud. Finally, with analytics applications, you now can build out analytical apps that can be embedded into a business process. For example, you're in HR. You can develop an attrition drivers and a cause application. In finance, you can develop a revenue and expense drivers application. So these are different ways now that you can build applications within SAC to augment your analytics capabilities. So what I have here real quickly is just a quick example. It's a scenario. So what's going to happen right here is just going to walk through creating a story using natural language processing. So as you see right here, selecting a data element, and I just want to ask a question. It's a very simple one, show me orders. And what you can see, it's pulling back, just look at Google-like experience, what you're trying to say, or look at what you're trying to get after. And then it automatically brings that data back to the user. This is just capabilities we just didn't have in our on-premise environment. And this is how quickly you as a developer can start building stories and models and homepages for the business consumers, or start teaching them how to get more value out of their data going forward. So let's talk about generating immediate value out of SAC. So building on the previous slides in the demo, you are likely very familiar with the capabilities provided by BusinessObjects on the right-hand side of the slide. From dashboarding to high-volume report creation, BusinessObjects is your reliable tool for deep analysis. One of the strengths of SAC is live connectivity. We believe customers should be able to leverage their existing data assets, which is why we highly value live connectivity to systems like HANA, BW, BusinessObjects, as well as other ODD data sources. SAP uniquely takes the context of live connectivity, a big amount of business value is captured in the core systems. Think of hierarchies or formulas. And all this context now is transferred into SAC using our live connections. We are supporting you as a BusinessObject customer on your journey to the cloud and providing many options to leverage on-premise investments, including universes, web intelligence documents, and existing row-level security. You'll be able to better leverage use cases in a mixed environment using SAC. So let's talk about a sample starting spot for hybrid. We talked about this earlier. If you have Explorer or legacy BusinessObjects dashboards like Excelsius, those products are going end of life, and you should start that journey of moving them to SAC. Secondly, things like Analysis for Office, Lumira Designer, which used to be the dashboard designer engine, scheduling and bursting, all these capabilities are available in SAC. And what you'll be left with is your traditional universe design work that you've done, and that data modeling is critical to your organization, web intelligence, Crystal reports, and Lumira Discovery as your key components within your BusinessObjects on-premise environment. We talked earlier today about the licensing models and how we can help you make that transition, but this is where we see the future of hybrid analytics for our customers. So how do we get started? Well, it's actually pretty simple. When you get started, first you'll get an account that's provisioned to you through our NS2 secure company. You'll get a welcome email. You can easily create users. The steps to connect to a BusinessObjects universe are simple, and Ken will talk more about that. And from there, you can write your SAC stories and ultimately uncover insights. And we're also looking to have available to our government customers a secure environment that we can offer 30-day free trials to help you get started. We have a large community of experts. There's a vast network of engaged customers and partners who use SAC. You'll find them offering support in our community forums, user groups, and live events. In summary, I hope you see the value of SAC and BusinessObjects working together. We want to help you on your journey to the cloud. I believe that you'll be able to evolve by delivering automated insights through the use of augmented analytics. With AI and machine learning technologies, you can discover deep insights, simplify access to critical information, and empower informed decision-making for all. And finally, remember, we have programs in place that will help you right-size your current on-premise landscape and help you start your journey to the cloud. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ken Coleman from the American Red Cross because he's done it. So Ken.
So thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Jason. Just before we pass it over to Ken, if you guys got any questions, make sure that you ask the questions in the chat box that's located on your right, and then we'll do our best to be answering to all these questions. Ken, if you can actually go to a full screen mode.
I'm going to do that.
Thank you very much.
How does it look?
If you can just go, I think that looks good to me.
Great.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So I'm going to focus on the architecture of the SAC BusinessObjects Hybrid Environment from the standpoint of someone who does actual project work. And there's a lot of technical information to remember in this presentation, more than you can probably retain, but I wanted to provide some substance. So please download the presentation as a reference if you find it valuable. Just so you know, the environment at the American Red Cross, we have an on-premise BusinessObjects enterprise environment. And although we have a data warehouse built on Teradata, we also have universes which connect directly to various source systems, even in runtime. So I'm going to focus on components and concepts that I believe are important to understand when doing actual project work with an SAC hybrid solution. I'll talk a little bit about the information design tool, even though I'm sure many of you already are very familiar with it. There's a thinking that SAC brings all of these new capabilities to the BusinessObjects environment. And although that's definitely true, the opposite is also true. In my opinion, the information design tool as a semantic layer brings capabilities to SAC that aren't possible without it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'll also talk about the two methods used to query a universe from SAC, live query or acquire, because along with the information design tool, it's really the foundation of an SAC hybrid environment. And to be quite honest, the demos you get from SAP really don't provide much insight into how they work and the pros and cons of each. I'm also going to get a bit technical and talk about a concept that I believe is very important to understand for those planning on doing interactive visualizations in SAC. It's the concept of query dimensionality and how it affects row count. By dimensionality, I mean what happens to a data set when you add more dimensions to it. And finally, I'm going to give what I believe are the best use cases for using Webi or SAC. So although SAC is a relatively young product, a few years old, the information design tool, or the previous version, the universe design tool, has been around for over 20 years. And over that period of time, it's been refined to the extent that, in my opinion, it's the most advanced semantic layer tool in the BI world. And I say that not just because of the depth of its features, but more importantly, because its workflow allows the developer to build very large and very complex semantic layers very fast. And in a hybrid environment, it gives SAC not just a familiar query mechanism, right, for BusinessObjects users, but because of the capability to build universes that may contain hundreds of tables and thousands of objects, it also provides the potential for a single source of truth for BusinessObjects and SAC users. So it also allows SAC models to utilize some advanced features of the universe, such as multiple data flow queries. And I think many of you understand what that is, but I'm going to give a brief example of multiple data flow queries on one of the next slides for those of you who might not, because it's very important. Notice I've underlined bullet point number 4 in this slide. Based on my experience, if I had to single out the most important element that the information design tool provides in an SAC environment, and I think this is probably the single most important thing I have to contribute today, is that for an existing BusinessObjects environment, having a universe as your semantic layer greatly reduces or even possibly eliminates the need to re-architect your data for SAC. And this is really a big thing for those who, are BI architects. If you chose to use a competitor like Tableau or Power BI, the data doesn't just get architected into those environments in a useful way by magic. You'll have to duplicate much of what you have already built in a universe or build new views to emulate what a universe does. But most likely won't do it as well as the information design tool. So this is kind of a bird's eye view of a screenshot of an actual universe in an information design tool business layer that I developed for the American Red Cross. So there's a quote on top of the image that I'm going to read, and this quote is from Ralph Kimball, who is considered the father of data warehousing. So Ralph Kimball says, when gathering requirements for a data warehouse BI initiative, you need to listen for and then synthesize the findings around business processes. Sometimes teams get lulled into focusing on a set of required reports or dashboard gauges. So this is what's achievable in a well-designed business objects universe. It can contain all stages of a business process. And because of the scope of that, it really can be a single source of truth. So this universe might look complicated to some of you, but actually it's just many star schemas in one universe. In that center row are the fact tables, and each of them basically represents a stage in a business process. And in this case, this is stages in our marketing process, since this is a marketing related universe. The two outer columns are all dimensions. So in the business layer of a business objects universe, a developer can organize into folders and subfolders, literally thousands of objects, all referencing those tables, and do it in a way that reflects, again, business processes. So it enables an SAC user to browse any stage of a specific business process from one query panel. And the same goes for Webi users, of course. And that's why it's a single source of truth. One universe for the entire business process. There aren't multiple data sources with redundant views to get out of sync with each other. And the beauty of it is because many dimensions are shared with many fact tables, there are infinite possible combinations of dimensions and facts. And because dimensions are shared with many facts, an SAC user can build one query that combines multiple facts together. For instance, in this universe, I could build a query of emails sent, direct mails sent, and resulting donations. All of these are from different fact tables. And I can do it for marketing campaigns, which is a dimension. And this is what multiple data flow queries can do. And so let me give you just a kind of a simplified view of that. So this is, I built this example of a multiple data flow query in a query builder in the information design tool, but this functionality works with SAC using the query panel, similar to what's in business objects. I've added to the query measures from 3 different fact tables and 1 dimension that is joined to each of the fact tables in the universe. So notice in the script editor with the red circle around it, it shows 3 queries that will be combined into one row. In this case, it would eliminate the need for SAC story to be built with 3 separate models. 1 for emails, 1 for direct mail, and 1 for donations. So basically, multiple data flow queries synchronizes multiple queries into one. And because of that, an SAC model builder doesn't have to create a single complex underlying view that contains all 3 facts. Before I move on, I just want to make one final comment about the information design tool. You know, in product demos of self-service visualization tools from any vendor, including SAP, the demo usually begins with, let's start with a model. But in the real world, architecting your data in a way so that you can build a model is really the difficult part of any analytics project. So Universes built with the information design tool simplifies this process for SAC. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I haven't yet seen a video or SAP blog that adequately explains the two types of queries in a hybrid environment. And this is the part of my presentation that gets a bit technical, but I hope it's useful content for you. This slide is a diagram that shows the 4 ways that SAC can connect to a universe in a hybrid environment. There are 2 types of queries that are possible. The first one is acquire, where the data is imported into SAC and stored there. SAC sits on top of HANA, so if the data has been acquired, performance is going to be very fast. The second type of query is live query, which when executed brings the data into the story, but not saving it within SAC. And it's very important to understand that the data is never stored in the underlying HANA database in live query. Only the metadata is stored. So both of these query types can be built and refreshed directly from a story to a business objects universe, or from an SAC model to a universe. So you see that in this chart. The top 2 arrows represent acquire and live connections from a story to a universe. And the bottom 2 arrows represent those same query types from a model to a universe, and the story connecting to the model. If a model is the data source in a hybrid environment, then it's a layer between the universe and any number of stories that can access that model. So it can be reused. In other words, a story can be built from 1 or more models, or it can be built using a live or acquire queries directly from the story itself. So that's what this chart is intended to show. And there are many advantages of building the story from a model. For acquire query types, a model is a data set in the SAC Cloud that can have many transformations in it, such as calculated columns and hierarchies, geo-enrichment, etc. Also, a model can be scheduled to refresh so that the data is preloaded. Maybe it's refreshed first thing in the morning, and performance in the story will be very fast, usually instantaneous. For live queries, on the other hand, the model only contains the metadata for the query, and at this time, most of those transformations aren't possible using live query. So to summarize the slide, there are 4 types of queries in a hybrid environment: acquire or live queries directly from the story, or acquire and live queries directly from a model. And the thing is, all different of these 4 types behave differently. So let's look at those behaviors. And this slide may be the hardest to grasp and longest to explain. So if you are confused, feel free to email me at any time. I put a lot of information in this one chart, so you can download the presentation as a reference. It's unlikely to remember it all. I just felt it's important to understand in a hybrid environment the differences in how different queries behave, because I found it's not easy information to get. So in column 1, we list each of the 4 types of queries that I already mentioned, right? Acquire within a story, acquire within model, live query within a story, live query in a model. Column 2 shows whether or not a query in the database is actually executed when the story is refreshed by a user. The thing to remember is that since live query only contains metadata, it has to execute and query the underlying universe whenever a user refreshes a story, no matter if it was built in a story or a model. Acquire queries will also execute if it's built from a story. And when you think about it, that makes sense. But the most important thing to understand from this chart is that when acquire queries are built within a model, refreshing the story just loads the data from the model. It doesn't requery the universe and underlying database. And the reason it's important to understand this is because it's a different behavior than what happens in Webi. When you refresh a report in Webi, it's going to requery the database. That's not what happens in SAC. So one of the features of using a business objects universe in a hybrid environment is that you have a scaled down version of the business objects query panel to build your query. And you can include user prompts when you build your query, but to do that, you need to predefine the prompts within custom filters in the business layer of the universe. So column 3 indicates whether or not user prompts are actually executed when a story is refreshed. And the chart shows that prompts are only executed in live queries. And personally, I think it's kind of an odd thing that when you build an acquire type of query, it's possible to use custom filters with prompts, and they will execute when the query is first built. But after that, when the story is refreshed, they unfortunately won't. And it makes sense. A developer building a model with acquire queries wouldn't want to have prompts executed in a model because the models are normally scheduled to refresh when there isn't any user activity. But within a story, it does make sense, and I hope that that's a feature that they add. Column 4 shows if the query can be edited or not. And live queries can be edited, but unfortunately, acquire queries from a story can't be edited at all. Whatever query you build, that's final. And only the filters, not the result objects of acquire queries built in a model, can be edited. Anyway, I know that's a lot of information to absorb, but hope it clarifies behaviors of models, gives you something, to have as a reference if you download it. Looking at this chart, you might think that live query is the way to go, but actually it isn't, because the most important features of SAC aren't supported at this time using live query with the universe. So let's look at the strengths and weaknesses of live query. Strengths, you can contain custom filter prompts. That's really great. Since queries, since it always will be refreshed, it's always going to query the database in real time. But the main weakness, and this is a big limitation, is linked analysis is not supported from an SAP data source right now. And really, that's linked analysis is the key to making interactive dashboards. It's how you create relationships between charts within a story, or it could be using the data in one chart to filter another chart, or values from one model to filter the queries from another model. So hopefully this is something that comes down the road, because if I was an SAC product team developer, the ability to use an existing value on a chart as a query filter for live query would be a priority for me. Also, geo-enrichment, drillable hierarchies, date dimensions, calculated measured variances, they're not supported in live query right now with SAP, unless you're using an SAP data source. So strengths and weaknesses of acquire: very fast performance, imports can be scheduled, and that's really important. Full features of SAC is supported. The weaknesses, there really aren't many, but the queries right now can't be edited, only the query filters. Hopefully, some of you suggest that to influence committees. Universe prompts are not executed when the story is refreshed. So many IT people, even experienced BI professionals, think that the reason to use one of the self-service visualization tools, in this case, the SAP Analytics Cloud, is because its ability to visualize data and do interactive analysis of the data through linking of those visualizations, but also to put the power to do that in the hands of business people. And although there is truth to that, the reality is that reporting tools like Webi have substantially closed the gap in terms of creating dashboards with interactive visualizations. But still, there are reasons why SAC is usually better suited for this than Webi. So this concept of dimensionality of data set affects row and how it affects row counts, helps to understand why. So dimensionality is the number of dimensions in a data set or query. And it's meaningful for interactive dashboards because they usually need the data in memory just based on their design. So data analysis happens at an aggregate level. We generally aren't looking at individuals or dates, but at the attributes of individuals like demographics of people, and an attribute of a date like the month and year. So data is aggregated on dimension attributes. Interactive visualizations in SAC need all the dimensions in memory because unlike a Webi report, performance needs to be instantaneous. That's what interactive means. So let's take a look at some typical data that might be used in an interactive dashboard. So this table is the kind of basic query or data set you might find in a simple dashboard. There are just 5 dimensions, and in this case, the kind I would use for marketing, because I'm going to be using marketing related examples. Year, month, fund, which is what people donate to, channel, which means the same thing as the platform that you're using, and state and an attribute of the state, division. The row count based on multiplying the dimension values is almost 75,000 rows. But look what happens when you add just one demographic dimension called age band. It has 12 values, which causes the row count to explode to almost 900,000 rows. And this would have been more rows than the previous version of SAC could support in one query. This year, the row limitation was raised from 800,000 rows to 100 million rows in SAC. And that was a huge, important improvement. Adding just 2 more rows to this, which are relatively small demographic dimensions, marital status and gender, and the row count totally explodes to over 10 million rows. So you might think, oh, this is excessive. But even this number of dimensions is actually conservative for an interactive story. So this is an example. This is a screenshot of a very simple SAC story based on that exact data set. And notice at the top, there are different filters based on the 3 demographic dimensions: marital status, age band, and gender. And those filters filter all the charts based on state in the geomap to the left, month and year in the timeline at the bottom, and the bar charts for marketing, fund, and channel. So this relatively basic interactive story requires 10 million rows of data to work. A more complex story would have many more dimensions and rows than the 10 million. Having all those dimensions in memory makes it possible for one of the augmented analytic capabilities called Smart Insight, which is, I think, really cool. And that this is an example on this chart. You see that the bottom of each of the charts, there's a text which is explaining which demographic values influence each of the chart. I mean, it's just a great feature. So row count matters. In this chart, you see that SAC and data reside on one platform, and that allows for enough rows to do interactive data visualizations for these large data sets. The Webi can do interactive visualizations, particularly now in version 4.3, but the microcube isn't designed to have millions of rows, let alone tens of millions of rows. So to achieve this in Webi, you would need to build several smaller queries and merge them. And that is a way of working around this. I don't have time to show that today, but it is possible. But the bottom line is you need to really understand the dimensionality of your queries when you're doing interactive dashboards. I'm going to go over quickly what I think are the best use cases
Thank you,
for
Ken.
Webi and SAC. Yeah.
No, that's great. It's got I think 3 minutes left, so that's good.
I'll do the best I can to speed it
No
up.
problem.
So complex interactive stories. Interactive stories dashboards require data sets in memory. SAC query sets now 100 million rows. The data set is unlimited. It's really best suited for this. Basic interactive dashboards. Webi can do interactive dashboards, but do it with limitations of the microcube. Transactional and ad hoc reports. Optional prompts are an important feature for ad hoc reporting, and it's not supported in SAC. So SAP best practice for tables in the SAP Analytics Cloud is 500 rows and 60 columns. That won't cut it for transactional and ad hoc reporting. So Webi is by far better suited for that. As Jason showed you, Data Explorer, Augmented Analytics, that's only in SAC. And also, SAC has these live connections to SAP data sources and ERP. So that's important and powerful. Personal data. Stories in SAC support spreadsheets and CSV files. Business object users have to use Rich Client if you want to do that. So if you're not using Rich Client, SAC is better suited for personal data. Complex SQL, really, Webi is fantastic at that. It can do subqueries, set analysis, and that's currently not supported in SAC. Webi can schedule, send reports to email addresses as well, which is important for many people. Finally, they both can do professionally authored dashboard. There is App Builder within SAC and Lemire Designer within Business Objects platform. And they share a common language, and they're both really good. So anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, ken.coleman@redcross.org. I hope, this was useful for some of you.